Okay, hello again.
And
Oh, and
that's
so what I
just
actually do is
how
I'm
we
going to do.
go. Hold your head up high, and I'm right here with you. 'Cause we are winners tonight. And that's
A
just
bit about
how we
yourself and a bit
go.
about what you do, because I think, especially around this time of year, the overwhelm is real, and it is just, this balancing game is a whole different echelon, which I just have not mastered. So I would just really like to hear a little bit about you and about that from your point of view and perspective.
So a little bit about me. My origin is that I'm a corporate lawyer. So did the whole uni school work thing into corporate life, and now I've been working as a lawyer for 7 years. But kind of 3 years into my career, I had this feeling, and I know a lot of people in corporate can really resonate with this because I've had so many conversations with so many women. I had this feeling like I put myself in a box and I was just made for more. It felt like there was just something missing. And I went through this whole experience of like, oh, it's too small of a firm. Let me go work for a bigger firm. Or let me go try in-house instead of working in private practice. Or let me, move overseas and try something there. It was always, oh, the grass is greener on the other side, not realizing that there was something core about the job that wasn't kind of hitting the spot for me. I think we put so much pressure on a job being the one thing that satisfies us. And I think that's where I was going wrong. When you meet people, you say, oh, hi, I'm Erika, I'm a lawyer, right? It forms such an integral part of our identity. But the problem is we're so multifaceted as humans. We have so many interests and passions that I think it's actually impossible for a single job to tick all the boxes, even if you're running your own business, right? I think it's really hard, and we put so much pressure on that being the one thing that satisfies us. So what I realized was that's exactly what I had done. And I had to really sit with myself and think, what's missing from this job that I'm not getting that is creating this sense of dissatisfaction, right? That I feel like I'm made for more, that I'm not able to exercise here. And what I realized was I kind of reflected back to when I was younger and I'd be at parties, like 18th, 21st. I'd always be that person in the back corner having a massive, deep and meaningful conversation, right? I just went there with people. We'd always be talking about life and trauma, anything in between. Like we just go there. And I realized in corporate, I wasn't getting that deep connection with people at all. And so one thing led to another, and I was able to start the podcast, which is the perfect outlet to have kind of, as you would know, that really deep connection with people and meaningful conversations. So
Mm.
that's kind of how it started. In terms of like end of year overwhelm, I definitely understand where you're coming from. It just feels like everyone wants everything done before this magical Christmas date, before the holidays. It's like
Mm.
it would make no difference if it happened in 2 weeks, but everyone needs it done before Christmas.
So
And it's
true.
always a mad rush and a mad panic. Um, I don't know if it's like the energy in the air, but I think when you have to get really clear on what's important for you, and it's not always about the
Mm.
quantity, it's about the quality. And you really have to try and stay in your own lane this time of year. I mean, I'm kind of biting my tongue saying this because I used to live in Australia and I now live in Dubai. And when I was in Australia from October through to like January, every weekend was hectic. We had some lunch, some dinner. It was a beautiful social time, but it was full on. Now that I
Mm.
live in Dubai, I don't have as big social circles. I don't have my extended family here. So it's also a Muslim country. So they do celebrate. I mean, they do have like Christmas things out, but it's not like a public holiday or anything like that.
Mm.
So it's such a different pace where I'm at now and like being here that I'm not actually experiencing that massive rush leading into Christmas. But I definitely know, I definitely know the feeling.
It really is. I started to realize how much environment adds to that as well. Just the energy of people around you, and it's hard to get that balancing act going strong, and especially around this time of year. Everything, yeah, the deadlines. I'm just working at the moment, and the deadlines are absolutely crippling. And I really have to step back sometimes and remind myself that I'm not a brain surgeon. This is just TV.
I want
And
to die if I don't send this email out.
yeah, exactly. And I think it's almost like coming up to Christmas. It's like it kind of starts accelerating, the trajectory of it starts getting up to this kind of climax point, and then you kind of have Christmas and everything, and it's like, oh, okay, I could have actually breathed way sooner than I did right now.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh gosh. So how have you, like, obviously you're saying now in Dubai you're not really having that similar kind of experience, but how did you manage that before? I know that you've obviously got your garden bed concepts. So how did you make this work? Basically, give me the answers.
Okay. So, do you want me to maybe quickly explain the garden analogy for listeners who don't know what you're talking about?
Yes, please.
Okay. When I was thinking about balance, right, and it was very much at this time when I was still living in Australia, when I just started the podcast, I had this consistent feeling of overwhelm, of guilt. Like, if I was doing a lot of work and I wasn't doing enough for my health, I felt guilty. I constantly felt torn. My time was more about the quantity of things I was doing and not the quality, right? This was like the energy I was in. And I realized that when we talk about balance, we talk about it as work-life balance, which is this very like, this is work, this is life, they have to be equal. It's just a very rigid way of looking at it. And I realized we never stop to kind of reflect on what does it actually mean for me? So the garden analogy is basically you have 3 garden beds: your health, your relationships, and your fulfillment. Within each garden, for a garden to be sustained, it needs basics like your sun and your water. And I call these our non-negotiables. In each area, your job is to work out what are your non-negotiables, right? So your health, for example, and it's very tempting to do a 20-page list of things and have this perfect morning routine and go on and on. That's how we get overwhelmed, right? You want to keep it as simple as possible. And when you're thinking about these things, it's what are the things that allow me to show up every day and have the energy I want? So I'll give you an example. For my health right now, that is getting enough sleep, so about 8 hours every night. It's making my own food, because I see a massive difference with when I am ordering takeaway or making my own food. It's meditating 10 minutes every morning, again, because I notice a huge difference when I do and when I don't. And it's just moving my body every day. That doesn't always mean I have to go to the gym and do a hard workout. Could mean I do a little walk, a little bit of a stretch, but it's just moving my body every day. Because these are the 4 things I've identified give me the best start of my day and give me the best energy. So you kind of do the same for your relationships and then your fulfillment. And just quickly, your fulfillment is a combination of your work. And like we said, work isn't the one thing that completes you or defines you. So what else is there? Maybe it's your hobbies, it's your passions, maybe you're studying, maybe you're volunteering. All those things come under fulfillment. Maybe you're a full-time parent. So it's working out what are my non-negotiables. Now, the reason I love the garden analogy is different fruits and veg, let's say, have different seasons. So you'll have summer plants or summer veggies versus winter veggies, etc. This is like having a crazy time at work, or maybe you have a crazy social calendar. And what we often do, and this is what I used to do in the past when I was living in Australia, and that October to Feb kind of stint was hectic, you would kind of go all in on that area. So I'd be like, right, I have to put everything in work right now. And I just neglected the other 2. And I think a lot of us do this, right? Because we think, I just don't have the time. Like, I have to put all my eggs into the work basket to meet the deadlines, to get everything done before Christmas or whatever the closing date is. And we neglect the other areas. But if we think about a garden, if we completely neglected it, if we gave it no sun, no water, it would die, right? And by the time we go back to revisit that or pick up our gym membership or start our meditation practice or start sleeping properly, like, there's so much more groundwork we have to do to get back into the flow of having those things. And those things, remember, are the things that make us show up the way we want to every day. So what I realized was I was actually looking at it wrong. I was thinking I have to work so much right now because it's a season of work, but I forgot that these other things actually give me the best energy to work more. And I was also feeling guilty about working more. So I think if we flip the way we're talking and thinking about it and say, okay, I'm acknowledging that this is a work season, like it's winter and the winter fruit and veg are growing. This area needs a little bit more TLC right now, but I'm not going to completely neglect the other 2. I'm going to work out what are my non-negotiables, i.e. what do I need to feed those gardens right now, just so that they can be sustained and ultimately give me energy to be and do what I want to do and completely allow myself to do what's required for that area. So for people right now feeling that overwhelm, I think it's really important to say, okay, what are the things that actually ground me, that make me, that make me feel like I've put myself first today, or I have energy to do what I want to do? Prioritize those things, and then let yourself go in as deep as you need to in the social game or in your work game, and don't have that guilt because you have kind of nurtured the areas first and foremost as your starting place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, massively. Um, it's so just processing, cogs whirling in my head here. Um, yeah, and I think, like you were saying, in regards just to coming back to those few things that you know work for you, what I've found is that it can be very easy for that to kind of fly away in the fast pace just of the world in general. There's like we're oversaturated with information, and not all of it is necessary information that's going to be helpful. And especially for some people who are kind of maybe a little bit more vulnerable to the world around them, they might just kind of go towards certain things and be thinking that's like where they're meant to be, but without the things like the meditation and the grounding yourself and really kind of becoming like at ease with who you are and what works for you, cutting out all that noise. It's yeah, I can see how that can get quite lost. So it's really nice to be able to have kind of a structure, an outline structure, like you said, to be able to navigate that a bit easier.
Yeah, and I
Um,
find like whenever I do, and I mean, life happens, right? Like I still go through periods where I'm like feeling a bit off or out of balance. And whenever I reflect, I can honestly pinpoint what area I've neglected. Maybe I've just gotten really slack with my meditation, or I haven't been going to the gym as much, or I've been ordering out a little bit more. You know, when you reflect on your life, and my intention always was to come up with a framework that wasn't a here, this is how you should do work life balance, this is how you need to have balance. This is a framework, and you need to fill in the gaps to make it make sense for you. Because for everyone listening, you know, like my balance and Amy's balance is completely different and maybe completely different. But also for me, as time goes on, that shifts and changes. Those non-negotiables look a little bit different as time goes on. And so it's so important to just, I like having the framework because I'm a very like systems based person, and I like simplifying things, which is why I say just keep it to 3 or 4, because otherwise you're going to have these seasons where, you know, you hear some people that have a scare or something come up in their health. They need to drop everything and go into their health. It's the same kind of thing as being really busy at work. But if you just have a really simple list of things that keep these areas alive, you can allow yourself to move with the seasonality of these different areas, but maintain things so that they don't disappear. And that's kind of how I feel I've been able to maintain my balance, irrespective of what's going on in life, because that's out of our control all the
mm,
time.
yeah, that's so true. So, something that I've been kind of working with at the moment is triggers. And certain triggers, I know can really kind of plummet people into certain places. And when that happens, it can be really difficult to kind of see the light, to be able to step back out of that. So I think what you're saying in regards to just having 2 or 3 things that you can focus on as non-negotiables just in the day, being like, let's just do this, just do this, just do this, then you kind of you're on your path upwards. But what I'm kind of curious about is, does it get easier? And I know it sounds like a silly question, but I kind of look at, say, if someone's like plummeting to really like bad lows sort of thing, they're constantly doing the work, going through these steps. Does that relationship with those habits tend to grow stronger so it becomes a little bit easier to kind of jump back onto that bandwagon and focus yourself once you've kind of fallen off a little bit?
Yeah. Look, I definitely want to acknowledge that I still have bad days. I still definitely have triggers. And that might mean I have 1 or 2 days where I have to sit on the couch and just process. And none of those non negotiables are getting any TLC, you know? But that's what I need to do in that moment. And the biggest skill in all of this is being flexible. But to answer your question, I guess your refractory period or how you respond, I don't leave myself there. I'm not there for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. It's a couple of days because I acknowledge I need to process some stuff. I need to journal things out. Maybe I need to book a session in with my therapist, right? I need to let myself feel the feels. And I think that's such an important thing, right? You can't ignore that because I have to drink enough water and you know, move my body today and have this to-do list. We're not robots, you know.
Mm,
So this, I guess, approach, you have to have a flexible, realistic element of it. So if you fall off the bandwagon, let yourself feel the feels, let yourself go through it. But the stronger these habits are from the beginning, the easier it is for you to bounce back into them, if you will. And it doesn't mean every single day is going to be perfect. It might mean, like I said, a couple of days you'll be on the couch or miserable or just feeling low. You might, females, we get our period, that also changes things emotionally. You have to be flexible with life. But yes, I would say the stronger these habits are from the outset, the easier it is for you to kick back into gear, because you're not starting from scratch, shall we say. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to start doing yoga now randomly when you've never done it before. It's already a pre-programmed habit. So it's easier for you to like muscle memory back into it,
Hmm. So, how strong would you say your why has played a part in balancing through life and going through your journey? Has that been a constant, solid?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. And you know what's interesting? I think parents, I mean, I'm not a parent, but parents talk about this a lot where they have like mum guilt, right? And I think the reason I'm bringing this up is I'm the kind of person that I love doing things for other people, right? I love being able to do things for my husband and my friends and be very generous with my time. And so I used to have this programming that doing things for myself was selfish or taking away. But when I realized that these things give me the energy to show up and be the person I want, I realized that, I mean, you always hear people saying filling up your cup, but it really is like you're filling up your soul and your energy so that what you have to give and what you want to do, whether it's show up on a podcast, go to work, be there for other people, raise your kids, go to study, whatever it is, you're showing up as the most optimal version of yourself. So that's always been my why, to prioritize these things and say no to anything that's not these things if they conflict, because it's going to compromise my energy and my ability to show up who I am every day. So yes, that's definitely been a consistent why. That's also helped me get much better at saying no and setting boundaries because I have that clarity. Whereas without it before, I'd be constantly saying yes to things and people just because I didn't really have anything else to do, right? So
Yeah.
definitely it's been a strong constant.
And I think as well, like having, oh gosh, sorry, my brain's just disappeared for a second.
Oh, good.
Um,
Oh, good.
oh, oh yeah, so in regards to the boundaries and being able to prioritize your needs and everything, um, I think I never really realized how much slowing down takes part in that because I always thought like I was just kind of rushing through things, getting on, and it was a lot easier when you just, like you said previously about work, if you're just focusing on that one thing, you can kind of go through it quite quickly. But then all these other things are dropping off, and I started to realize that reflection time and stopping and breathing and kind of looking about you is just as important as everything else. That it really needs to be kind of booked in. Like I would schedule things, like I'll schedule going to see friends, or I'd schedule works or goals or things. I would never schedule in just like resting
Me time.
or yeah, me time or meditation. Like I just wouldn't. And I think when you do kind of go backwards almost, you start to be able to, I don't know, get further forward, which is a very odd concept, but yeah, it's very, very interesting.
It definitely feels counterintuitive, but I think the more it's like a really simple analogy is if you were using your iPhone every single day and not charging it, it's not going to be that useful. It's going to be running on very low battery. So why should you treat yourself any different? You need that time of recharge and rest. And the reflection part that you brought up is you're so spot on because reflecting, it sounds a bit woo-woo to a lot of people and they don't really know how to make it make sense for themselves. But I think quite simply, like reflection is just hearing yourself. Where are you at? How are you feeling? Like if you don't check in, if you don't vibe check with yourself, how are you supposed to know? You're going to rely on other people online explaining things or talking about their emotions to use that as the frame to understand yourself. When all you need to do is a little bit of quiet time to just check in. That's all meditation is, by the way. Like I think people complicate and they say, well, I'm not good at it. I don't know what to do. It's just getting quiet and hearing yourself. What thoughts are you having? It's, I still have days where I wake up and I meditate and I think, my God, I'm so distracted today. Oh, I'm having a really negative day. Like, what are these negative thoughts I'm having? But it's just that awareness. And by you observing, you just remove yourself from I am a negative person, or I'm not good enough. You're just like, oh, I'm having these thoughts, and just by removing yourself, it creates a very different experience. So that reflection is so invaluable, as counterintuitive as it feels, because we're in a very like doing culture all the time.
It's so true. And I think in regards to, you said vibe checking with yourself, which I absolutely love. So I'm definitely going to be pinching that one. I think sometimes and I'm just going to talk from a personal space, that I think I can often hear other people, like you can hear the world around you. You hear what's going on and then you hear your voice. But then I think the important thing as well is to like really connect to that and not just connect to it with your mind, but your whole body and your soul. You need to actually feel those soft spots like within you that are kind of like navigating you through life and not getting kind of accidentally carried out with the other things that are going on. And I would do it for such a long time. I would always try and reflect and everything, but I would reflect from a place of safety so that I wasn't really connected in my body. It was,
Interesting.
yeah, so it was kind of like I was reflecting, but it was all logical. It was all like, and it was all logics based on things that people had told me around me. So instead, what I've tried to do recently is actually like feel it in my body. And I think going to the gym and like you say, moving your body is really helpful because it kind of reignites all that stuff in you, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, massively. I think once, oh, sorry, I've gone into a little rabbit hole there. I don't even know what I'm
Oh,
talking about
good.
anymore. Sorry, I just need a beat quickly.
Oh, good. Don't stress. Happens to me all the time.
Yeah, yeah, you know what? It's the learning curve. The learning curve is real. And I remember back in the day when I was learning, it was always kind of like, I don't know, it was quite easy. Not easy, but it gets deeper. It gets deeper, and then the world starts opening up, and it all starts becoming a little bit more like, oh, okay, what's happening here then? So, actually sitting here and diving into it and kind of pulling it apart a little bit, it's very interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
I want to share one exercise because you said something important, which is, you used to just reflect from a place of safety, which was logical, which was based off how you were kind of programmed, right? Or what society told you this is how you should feel and think, versus you feeling in your body. A really interesting exercise people can do to work out which one it is, because it's not always obvious, right? It's not always obvious. Oh, is this thought mine? Especially if you've had it for so long and from a young age. It's called the Y times 5. So if you're like, oh, I don't want to go to this event, you ask yourself why. You have an answer. Ask yourself why again, and keep going 5 times or until you can't answer anymore, and you uncover your real why. And sometimes a really classic example is, I'm not sure what it's like in the UK, but in Australia, it's a very buy property. Buy your first property, and that means you're successful, and that's just the thing to do. That's how our parents raised us. But when I think about it now, I don't know if I want to buy a property, but it seems like the logical thing to do. So when I did this exercise, I realized that the only reason it was a goal or something in my head was because that's what I've been told was the thing to do.
Mm,
But without kind of sitting with that and reflecting and discerning, is it me or is it a thought I've just adopted because someone told me, you can't work out
mm.
which one it is. So that I've just found it's a really useful exercise to work out, are your thoughts and desires really yours?
Yeah, that's actually really very helpful because it is. It's just like navigating into this deeper delve of things, and by doing that, you're going to bring those answers to the surface. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to try that one, give that a go. Um, you mentioned and you were speaking vaguely about motherhood. And I think I'd quite like to touch on that. I know that your podcast you like to drive towards women and what we go through. And I'm actually quite late to this game. I've got 4 brothers, so I kind of grew up feeling like I wasn't a girl as much. And it was only like a few years back that I started actually acknowledging my periods and my cycles and how that has such an effect and an impact on like everything around me. And I think for such a long time, it